Everybody's been staring at the caboose of the Savage Impulse, and it makes a lot of sense. That's where the party is. That's where you get the straight pole bolt with all of its tricks, like being able to change its angle. And then, of course, you just have the thing itself and how quick it is to cam open, slap back, slap in another round. It sounds like the testers right now are having a lot of fun with it. Now, I did not request one of these rifles, and of course, this is not an Impulse that you see here on the bench. This is a reminder of what we do here on this channel, and kind of to indicate why I haven't requested an Impulse yet. This is, well, it was originally a Savage Axis, and we did all kinds of work on this earlier, a couple years ago, to turn this into something that's much more competent than your out-of-the-box Savage Axis. We did all kinds of accurizing on this, and this shoots completely differently. Wonderful, wonderful rifle. If you want to see that whole series, I'll put a link to that series around here, and you can check the whole thing out. We've worked on the Savage Axis and the Savage 12 FV. Okay. Done a couple different 12 FV builds. So yeah, please check out some of those if you want to see where you can take a Savage. But that's why I wanted to talk about the Impulse, even though I don't have one in my hands yet, and to kind of give you an indication of what we might get into here in the future with one of those rifles. For me, a lot of the fun of the Savage Impulse is actually at the front of the action. This is the area that a lot of people are not discussing. They're talking about how quick it is to run that bolt, and yeah, that's the party piece. That's the really cool part. But for those of us that are tinkerers and that want to take a rifle, not just, out of the box and use it, but we want to turn it maybe into something that fits us better, works better, and maybe is more accurate. We can do all kinds of other cool things with it, maybe switch around chamberings. What's going on at the front of the action is where there's a whole lot more fun. The first step on our rabbit trail is actually the rail that's built into the top of the action. And this might seem not very important, but this points us in the direction we're going to go here. How is it that they were able to get a rail that's built into the top of the action? That seems like it'd be kind of difficult. Usually our actions are a tube of steel, like this one right here with the Axis or with the 12 FV. Any of your Remingtons, Hoas, the Weatherbys, all of these are going to have a tube of steel that's been milled out to allow, the raceways, get the bolt through there. And then if we want to put some kind of rings or anything on top, you usually have to just, bolt something down on top of it. So how are they able to make a rail that goes on top? And that's because the action on the Impulse is actually aluminum. It is not steel. Now, as soon as I heard that in the press conference, my ears pricked up and I was like, whoa, okay, now how does that work? You can't really thread a steel barrel into an aluminum action like that and expect it to hold up, especially to some of the high pressures that we get into. That doesn't sound quite right. How are they doing this? And then they started discussing some of the ways that this action works, and I started asking some questions for you guys and for me too. I was really interested to see how this works. But the fact that this is all aluminum means that, yeah, they can go ahead and machine the rail right into the top. That does have a couple really good indicators for you. First off, it's probably going to be easier for you to get a low mount on your scope. For the most part, we want our scopes as low as possible down to the barrel so that we don't get big parallax shift or whatever. If we've canted the rifle, there are a couple of good reasons to get your barrel as low to the barrel, get your scope as low to the barrel as possible. And with that, you're probably going to be able to get quite low. But that's really a minor thing. The next step on our rabbit trail goes a little bit deeper in here. How does that barrel attach to the receiver? So with this kind of setup, we have the barrel, and what we do with any of these kind of modern bolt-action rifles is that usually you will stick a gauge, a headspace gauge, inside the chamber, and you will start to thread the barrel on farther and farther until you figure out where it's going to stop, come to a stop on that headspace gauge. And then with these that have a barrel nut, you can just thread this barrel nut on, and that sets your headspace. You are done. Savages are really, really easy to rechamber, to swap new barrels on. You can do all kinds of fun stuff with these, as we've seen in the past with those projects that we've done here. But that is how you set headspace, and everything is very solid after that. This is all steel running right through here. Now, normally on a Savage 12, 10, 16, any of the regular bolt-action rifles that aren't the Axis, you're going to have a lug that's installed right here between the barrel nut and the action right here. And that is going to be what kind of takes up the recoil. It has a metal plate that sticks down into the stock, and that kind of slams against, well, hopefully it's really snug against a plane down inside here, and that kind of takes up a lot of the stresses so they don't go into the action screws back here. Again, if you want to check out those builds, you can see how it all works. But how in the world does the Impulse work if this is aluminum? It's just going to get torn to shreds if we have a similar setup like that. Okay, now this is really stinking cool. On your AR-15s, you have an aluminum receiver, right? That upper receiver. And you can't, you kind of thread certain parts into it, but where a lot of the stresses are going, where the bolt actually locks up, it isn't into the receiver itself. It's not an action like this one. This one, the bolt, these lugs are going to catch on some recesses, some cutouts on the inside of the action here, and that is where all those forces are going to go. They're going to slam into a wall back inside here. And on the AR-15, since you have aluminum, that's not really going to work. So what they have is something called a barrel extension. It's just a little piece of metal. It's a little tube of metal that actually has the cutouts for the bolt, for those lugs to catch on, and it attaches to the barrel. And then that little extension, that little piece of steel, that's what actually attaches to the aluminum action. And that is pretty much exactly what we have going on with the Savage Impulse. You have, instead of barrel, nut, to the lug, to the action, it is now barrel, to nut, to lug, attached to an extension, which then is pushed straight back into the aluminum action, and the action is actually split down at the bottom, and you clamp it around that extension. So that's how this all sets up. In order to make sure that nothing spins and goes weird, there is a groove that's cut in there, and you have a pin. It's kind of like some of the survival rifles that I've tested, and like the AR-15 itself. There's a little pin on that extension that makes sure that everything slides in straight and goes in the right spot, and kind of prevents anything from moving around. So that is how the Impulse is getting away with having an aluminum action. Overall, it's going to mean less weight, but it also is going to get into something really interesting. I asked in the press conference if it would be possible to swap the barrel in the field. At first, the guys in the press conference, I think, were kind of wondering why I would ask that question, but I think there are some interesting implications. First off, you could have one rifle that can handle multiple chamberings. Say if you go out for a weekend and you're on a big ranch like some of the places that we've gone, where maybe you have hogs to hunt, you have coyotes, you could have all kinds of animals out there, you could have deer, you could be getting into all kinds of mischief, and you want to be able to swap your chamberings, as long as it has the same head diameter and some other similar things, then it looks like you could probably do that. And that's one of the things that I really want to test here on this channel. I want to take an Impulse rifle and see if you can actually very quickly, you just take the stock off the action, and then you undo, I think it's 4 screws, and then you can pop the barrel out and slap another one in. As long as you have an extension for each barrel and you have already set the headspace is actually based on that extension, not on the receiver. So you just set them all up beforehand, get them all zeroed, and then I'm really curious to see if we swap barrels around, if it will actually come back to zero. Now naturally there will be some harmonic differences between each, so with one scope sitting on top, it's not going to have the same point of aim, and you probably have to move things around a little bit. You'd have to probably remember a shift in its point of aim. But if it works, this could be really cool for a couple different kinds of folks. Like I say, hunters might have some fun with this. This could be interesting for competitors because, first off, you do have a much quicker action, and one that probably upsets your image a whole lot less than your typical bolt-action rifle. I know that with Savages, which are cock-on-open, it's really common for, you're opening the bolt, you have that extra, kind of cant, you're trying to not push everything out of the way, but there's just a little bit of torque that goes into it, and it's easy to lose your target. And I'm kind of curious to see how quickly the straight pull can get back onto that target. But yeah, if this does keep 0, this could be really fun. But at the very least, even if it doesn't do that, this is still a really sweet system that allows you to swap your chamberings very easily, just like any of the other Savages in the past. So if you want to go to a new chambering, you want to go to, more of a higher level of barrel, you just get your normal Savage barrel. So if you go to a company like Preferred Barrel Blanks, that I've showed one of theirs before, you can grab one of those barrels, use your same headspace setup, and actually it might be even easier this time, just because of the way that barrel extension works. It could be quite easy to get your headspace just right and then go out into the field with a whole new chambering. I think that this rifle has some serious implications, not just for the Impulse straight action, but think if they come up with an extension that works for bolt action as well. They just have to have that extension that has the cutouts for your regular, bolt pattern. That could be something in the future. I don't know if that would work. The engineers there can probably tell us if it will, but if it does, then this could be a really cool way to set up rifles in the future, and this could affect others out in the industry if they can start to adopt some similar principles. We're going to see where this goes in the future. Now, for you tinkers and hobbyists like myself that want to see how far you can push the Savage Impulse, I did ask one more question for you, and it was kind of a silly question. I asked how much bolt thrust it could handle, what kind of cartridges can it actually deal with, and then I started taking a look at their chamberings and saw that they had 338 Lapua Magnum in there, and I was like, never mind. I sent Savage another message and said, okay, I think I understand. This can handle pretty much anything that any other Savage bolt action can handle. And I wasn't expecting that because, the lockup is just those 6 ball bearings in that ring, which, okay, that's, that sounds really cool for some of your 308s and all that. We've had other rifles chambered for some, pretty stout cartridges from other countries. But I was wondering, how much with that tiny lockup surface, how much can this actually handle? And if it can handle 338 Lapua Magnum, it can handle pretty much anything you can throw at it. A Savage won't handle 50 BMG, so don't even think about that. But anything 338 Lapua Magnum on down, looks like it'll be able to handle it. So go crazy, guys. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell down below so you can see when new videos come out. Remember that YouTube hates us, and they do not want this information getting out there. Notification bell is probably your best chance to see anything. But we have a lot of fun stuff coming up in the future. I have an optics series that we're going to get into that I have been just wanting to launch for a while. But because it is kind of precise, I'm just waiting to make sure that everything is just in the right place. Okay, what the heck? Let's go ahead and do it. It's going to be a lot of fun. You won't want to miss out. But thanks to patrons of the Destructive Arts that make videos like these possible. These guys are, keeping the lights on. They're keeping me in good audio gear like you see right here. And they're making it so I can keep in powder and bullets, if there's any left right now, so that we can perform some of these tests. And hopefully we will get to that Savage Impulse test in the future. But at the 338 Lapua Magnum level, we have Tyler, we have Sportsman's Guide, and Stan and Mary. And at the 300 Win Mag level, we have Howard, Mr. No Name, Peter, and Joseph Davis. Thanks a lot, you guys, and to everybody else that's chipping in $1 or $2 a month. And if anybody else wants to jump in and, say, yes, I'd like to see more of the content you have going on around here, I'll put a link to Patreon. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. Even if you didn't like this particular content, go ahead and subscribe. There's probably something coming that's more up your alley. Check out this playlist right here. This is going to have videos in a similar vein to what you just watched. These 2 videos we cherry-picked for you. And finally, The Social Regressive is on Patreon. So, you can become a patron of the Destructive Arts and earn some goodies while helping us to provide high-quality videos just by kicking us a few bucks a month. Thanks a bunch for your patronage.